On Mother's Day, I cooked a huge lunch for my family, but no one showed up. My daughter-in-law posted pictures from her gender reveal party with the caption, "100 guests, only the most important people. No inconvenient old hag ruining our perfect day." So I crashed the party with a gift, a DNA test. I'm glad you're here. Follow my story to the end and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far my story has traveled. My name is Brenda, and I'm 59 years old. I never thought at this age I'd be sitting alone in my dining room, staring at a table set for 8 people who never arrived. It was Mother's Day. I'd spent 3 days getting everything ready. The stuffed roast chicken my son Michael loved so much, the cornbread casserole I'd been making since he was a boy, the coconut cream pie he always requested for special occasions. I had even bought fresh flowers for the centerpiece and used those special cloth napkins I only brought out on important days. By noon, the table was perfect. The plates were shining, the silverware was in its exact place, and the aroma of the food filled the entire house. I sat in my favorite chair, the one facing the window, and I waited. 12:15, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Michael wasn't answering his phone. Ashley, my daughter-in-law, wasn't either. My sister, Carol, had confirmed she was coming with her 2 kids. My brother-in-law, Robert, had promised to be here early. They all knew it was important to me. They had all said yes, but nobody came. By 2 in the afternoon, the chicken was cold. The casserole had hardened a bit in the dish. The pie was still perfect, but it felt pointless now. I stood up from the table, my legs trembling, not from age, but from something I couldn't yet name. I went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. My hands shook as I held the glass. 59 years of caring for this family, 59 years of being the matriarch who kept everyone together, and on my day, no one had shown up. I picked up the phone and dialed Michael's number again, straight to voicemail. I tried Carol, same thing. Robert, the same. Then it occurred to me to check Facebook. Maybe something had happened, a family emergency they hadn't told me about. I opened the app with fingers that were no longer shaking from nerves, but from a strange tightness in my chest. The first thing I saw knocked the wind out of me. Ashley had uploaded a photo exactly an hour and a half ago. The picture showed a backyard full of pink and blue balloons, elegant tables with white tablecloths, and a spectacular backdrop with a sign that read, "Boy or Girl." There were at least 100 people in the photo. I immediately recognized Michael, smiling next to Ashley, who had her hands on her 6-month belly. There was Carol, my sister, raising a glass in a toast. Robert was there too, chatting with other relatives, all of them. They were all there. But what truly broke me wasn't seeing them all together without me. It was reading the caption Ashley had written below the photo. 100 guests, only the most important people. No inconvenient old hag ruining our perfect day. I read those words once, twice, 3 times. No inconvenient old hag. I dropped the phone on the kitchen table. The sound of plastic hitting wood echoed in the silence of my empty house. I felt like someone had hit me in the stomach with a hammer. It wasn't that they had forgotten. It wasn't that something had come up at the last minute. They had deliberately organized a major family event for my first grandchild and had purposefully excluded me. But more than that, Ashley had been cruel enough to write those words publicly, where anyone could see them, where I could see them. I sat down in a kitchen chair, and for the first time in years, I cried. Not the silent cry I sometimes had when I missed my late husband. This was a deep, gut-wrenching sob that came from the soul and shook my entire body. When had I become the inconvenient old hag? When had my presence become unwelcome in my own family? I thought about Michael, my only son. I had raised him alone after his father died when he was 15. I worked double shifts at the textile factory for years to pay for his college education. I stayed up with him when he had pneumonia at 20. I comforted him when his first girlfriend broke his heart. I was the one who taught him how to drive, who bought him his first suit for work, who was there for every important moment of his life. And now he was there, at that party, celebrating his child on the way, while I sat alone at a table set for 8 people who never came. I went back to the dining room and looked at the food I had prepared with so much love. The chicken I had marinated since the night before, the casserole that had taken me all morning, the pie I had made because I knew Michael loved it, all for nothing. I grabbed my phone again and checked the comments on Ashley's post. 20 people had liked it. 5 had commented on how beautiful she looked. My sister Carol had written, "So exciting. Everything was perfect. Everything was perfect. Without me." I closed Facebook and sat in the silence of my home. Outside, I could hear the neighborhood kids playing, the sound of cars driving by, the normal life of a Sunday afternoon. But inside my house, inside my heart, there was a void I didn't know how to fill. That night, as I put all the food away in the refrigerator, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sit around feeling sorry for myself. If Ashley thought she could treat me like an inconvenient old hag, if my own family thought they could exclude me without consequences, then it was time they learned exactly who they were dealing with. Because something told me this situation was more complicated than it seemed on the surface. And when a 59-year-old woman who has fought her whole life decides to investigate something, she usually finds a lot more than she was expecting. In the days following Mother's Day, I couldn't shake the humiliation I had experienced. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized there were signs I had been ignoring for months. Michael finally called me on Tuesday night. His voice was awkward, like a child who knows he did something wrong but doesn't want to admit it. "Mom, I'm sorry we didn't make it on Sunday. Things got complicated with Ashley's party and..." "The party where I was the inconvenient old hag?" I asked directly. There was a long silence. Too long. "Mom, Ashley didn't mean it like that. She was stressed out with the whole event and..." "Michael, I'm 59 years old. I'm not a child. Your wife publicly wrote that she didn't want any inconvenient old hags on her perfect day. Did you know I wasn't invited?" Another silence. And there I had my answer. "It's complicated, Mom. Ashley wanted it to be a small, intimate thing and..." Intimate. There were 100 people there, Michael. I saw the pictures. You have to understand, she's very sensitive with the pregnancy, and sometimes she feels... I didn't let him finish. She feels what? Uncomfortable with me? With her son's grandmother? It's not that. It's just, well, sometimes she thinks you're very direct. Direct. That was a new word to describe a mother who cared about her family. After hanging up with Michael, I sat in my living room, replaying conversations I'd had with Ashley over the past few months. I started to remember things that had seemed strange at the time, but that I had chalked up to normal pregnancy quirks. Like that time in February when I mentioned I wanted to go with her to a doctor's appointment to meet the doctor and see how my grandchild was doing. Ashley had told me it wasn't necessary, that Michael was already going with her. But when I asked Michael about it later, he said he'd never gone with her because Ashley preferred to go alone, or when I suggested in March that we could plan a baby shower together. Ashley had said it was too early, that we should wait until the second trimester. But now I realized they had thrown the gender reveal party without even mentioning it to me. There was also that day in April when I stopped by unannounced. I found Ashley on the phone, speaking to someone in a hushed voice. When she saw me, she quickly hung up and told me it was the doctor confirming an appointment. But something in her face, in the way she hid her phone, had seemed odd. And then there were all the little lies about dates. When I asked her when her last period was to better calculate the due date, she had given me one date. But later, she casually mentioned she had been at her sister's house that weekend. And I remembered perfectly that her sister had been on vacation during those exact dates because she had posted pictures from the Florida Keys. It was one thing for Ashley to be private about her pregnancy. It was another thing entirely for her to be lying about basic details. On Wednesday, I decided to do something I had never done before. I looked through Ashley's social media more carefully, not to spy, but to better understand what was happening. I scrolled back through her Instagram, looking at photos from the past few months. In January, she had posted a photo from a spa with the caption, "Relaxing before everything changes." In February, a picture at a bar with friends where she was clearly holding a glass of wine, even though she should have been pregnant according to the timeline she'd given me. But what really caught my attention was a photo from March. Ashley was on the beach in a bikini, and while there was a small bump on her belly, her posture was strange. She had her hands placed strategically over her stomach, but not in the natural way pregnant women usually pose. It looked more like she was trying to hide something or create an illusion. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something didn't add up, something my mother's intuition was telling me to dig into deeper. On Thursday morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I called my cousin Rose, who works at the medical lab downtown. We hadn't talked much in years, but we had always maintained a good relationship. "Rose, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Of course, Brenda, what's wrong?" "If someone wanted to do a paternity test without the mother knowing, would that be possible?" There was a pause. "Brenda, is everything okay?" "Just answer my question, please." "Well, technically, yes, if you have a sample from the father and the baby once it's born, or if you can get some genetic material from the mother during the pregnancy." "But Brenda, why are you asking me this?" I didn't tell her the whole truth. I said I had some doubts about a complicated family situation and wanted to be prepared. Rose explained that prenatal paternity tests were possible but expensive, around $1,500, and required a blood sample from the mother. After hanging up with Rose, I sat in my kitchen, drinking coffee and thinking. Was it possible that Ashley was lying about more than just the dates? Was it possible there was a deeper reason she didn't want me around during her pregnancy? That afternoon, while organizing some old photos, I found a picture of Michael as a baby. He had his father's green eyes and that little dimple in his chin he had inherited from my side of the family. All the Miller men had that dimple. It was like a family trademark. And then I remembered something that sent a chill down my spine. In all our conversations about the baby, whenever we talked about who he might look like, Ashley always changed the subject. She never speculated about the child's features like all expectant mothers do. She never said things like, "I hope he has Michael's eyes," or "I wish he'll inherit your smile." It was as if she didn't want to talk about the physical traits the baby might inherit, as if she knew something we didn't. That night, as I looked out my bedroom window, I made the hardest decision of my life. I was going to find out the truth, no matter the cost. Because if Ashley was deliberately keeping me away, if she was publicly humiliating me, if she was manipulating my son, then there had to be a powerful reason behind it all, and I had a suspicion that reason was going to change our lives forever. On Friday morning, I woke up with a determination I hadn't felt in years. During the night, I had decided to dig deeper into the inconsistencies in Ashley's story, no matter what I might uncover. First, I called Michael at work. I knew he'd be busy, but I needed specific information. Mom, I'm in a meeting. Can you call me later? Just a quick question, honey. Do you remember exactly when you two told me Ashley was pregnant? It was in January, I think. Why? Beginning or end of January? Early, yeah. It was right after New Year's. Mom, is everything okay? Everything's perfect. Have a good day. I hung up before he could ask any more questions. Second step, check my own calendar. I've always written everything down in my physical planner. It's a habit of years. I found the exact date. On January 9th, Michael had called to give me the news. Third step, do the math. If Ashley had told me she was 6 weeks along when they gave me the news, that meant she had conceived in late November. But if she was now 6.5 months along in May, the dates didn't line up at all. I decided to be more direct. I called Carol, my sister. Carol, I need to ask you something about the party on Sunday. Oh, Brenda, look, I'm so sorry about that. Ashley told us you couldn't make it because you had other plans and... Other plans? She told you that? Yes. She said you had confirmed you couldn't attend because you had an important family commitment. I felt like I had been slapped. Ashley hadn't just excluded me. She had lied about the reason. Carol, did you happen to hear when she announced the baby was conceived? Well, yes. She said it was on their late honeymoon in December. Michael and she went to those cabins in the Smoky Mountains, remember? My blood ran cold. Michael and Ashley had gone to the mountains in December. That was true. But Michael had been with me on Christmas Day, December 25th, and on the 27th, he had to travel for work to Dallas. He was gone until January 5th. I knew this for a fact because I had to watch his dog those days. Carol, are you sure she said December? Positive. In fact, she told a whole romantic story about how he was conceived in that cabin overlooking the lake. Very sweet. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen, my hands shaking. The dates didn't match up in any way. If Michael had been away from December 27th to January 5th, and Ashley claimed to have conceived in December during their late honeymoon, something was terribly wrong. I decided to investigate further. I called the resort where Michael and Ashley had stayed in the mountains. I pretended to be a friend, wanting to make a similar reservation. Excuse me, my friend was there in December with her husband and highly recommended the place. Could you confirm if you have availability for the same dates next year? What dates specifically? Well, she told me it was late December, but I don't remember exactly. One moment, let me check. Ah, yes, here it is. Michael Miller and Ashley Vega. They stayed from December 15th to the 17th. My heart stopped. December 15th to the 17th. 3 days. Michael had returned on the 18th and had been with me until Christmas. Then he traveled for work. If Ashley had conceived in December, it hadn't been with Michael. I felt dizzy. I had to grab the back of the chair to keep from falling. All the pieces were starting to fit together in a horrible way. The avoidance of doctor's appointments, the lies about the dates, her resistance to me being around during the pregnancy, her cruel comment about inconvenient old hags. Ashley didn't want me around because she was afraid I would figure out the truth. That afternoon, I made the hardest decision of my life. I called Rose again. Rose, I need to ask you another question about paternity tests. Tell me, is there any way to do one without either of the parents knowing? Brenda, you're scaring me. What's really going on? I told her everything. The inconsistent dates, the lies, the evasiveness. Rose listened in silence. Look, it's technically possible if you can get DNA samples from both parents, something with saliva or hair with the root. But Brenda, this is serious. Are you sure you want to know the truth? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Rose explained I could get a home paternity test kit for $350. I would need samples from Michael and Ashley, and when the baby was born, a sample from the child. But Rose, isn't there a way to know before he's born? There are prenatal tests, but they're more complicated and expensive. You'd need a blood sample from the mother and the potential father. They cost around $2,500. I didn't sleep at all that night. I stayed up thinking about my grandchild, about Michael, about the whole lie unfolding before my eyes. How had I been so blind? How had I not realized it sooner? On Saturday morning, as I was having my coffee, the doorbell rang. It was Michael. He looked tired, worried. "Mom, we need to talk. Ashley is very upset with you." "With me? Why?" "She says you've been asking strange questions, that you called the resort where we went on our honeymoon." My blood froze. How did Ashley know I had called the resort? "Michael, sit down. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Mom, you're scaring me." "Are you 100% sure that baby is yours?" Michael froze. His face changed completely. "How can you ask me that? Of course he's mine." "Michael, you were away on business from December 27th to January 5th. I watched your dog, remember? And Ashley says the baby was conceived in December. We went to the mountains before my work trip. Yes, from the 15th to the 17th, 3 days. But Michael, if you count the weeks from then until now..." I saw Michael start to do the math in his head. I saw the exact moment he realized the dates didn't add up. "No, it can't be." "Son, has Ashley been acting strange during the pregnancy? Has she tried to keep you away from the doctor's appointments?" Michael turned pale. She says she prefers to go alone because she feels more comfortable. And you've never seen an ultrasound? Never spoken directly with the doctor?" "No, but that's normal, right? A lot of women prefer..." His voice trailed off. He knew it wasn't normal. He knew something was wrong. "Michael, I think we need to get a paternity test." My son sat in silence for a full 10 minutes. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "Do you really think Ashley is cheating on me?" "I think we need to know the truth." That afternoon, Michael and I went together to buy the paternity test kit. Neither of us spoke during the drive, but I knew my son was finally starting to see what I had seen for weeks. Ashley's lies were about to come crashing down, and when they did, our entire family would change forever. The next few days were the most tense of my life. Michael had agreed to the paternity test, but getting a sample from Ashley without her realizing it was more complicated than we had thought. On Monday night, Michael came to my house with an expression I had never seen on him. He looked like he had aged 10 years in a weekend. "Mom, I think you're right," he said without even a hello. "What happened?" I confronted Ashley about the dates yesterday. I asked her directly when she conceived, and she started getting nervous. She gave me 3 different dates in the same conversation. He sat on my sofa, his head in his hands. "But that's not the worst part, Mom. Last night, while she was sleeping, I checked her phone." My heart raced. "And what did you find?" "Messages. Lots of messages with someone named Richard. Messages dating back to November and December." Michael took out his phone and showed me pictures he had taken of Ashley's messages. I couldn't believe what I was reading. "I miss you so much. Can't wait to see you again." November 23rd. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. November 25th. Are you sure Michael doesn't suspect anything? December 2nd. And then, the message that made my blood run cold. I think I'm pregnant. We need to talk urgently. December 15th. "Michael," I whispered, "this message is from the same day you two arrived in the mountains." "I know, Mom, I know." I kept reading. The messages continued through December, but after December 20th, they stopped abruptly. The last message from Richard said, "I can't do this anymore. I have a family. I'm sorry. Who is Richard? I asked. That's the part that hurts the most, Mom. It's Richard Herrera. He was my best friend from work. He's married. He has 2 little kids. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Not only had Ashley cheated on Michael, but she had done it with his best friend. Did you know they knew each other? Yes. Richard used to come over to the house a lot. Ashley was always very friendly with him. I just thought she was being hospitable. Michael fell silent for a moment, staring at his hands. Mom, there's more. I started remembering weird things that happened in November and December. Like that time I came home early from work and found Ashley all dressed up, as if she had just gone out. She told me she had gone to the grocery store, but there were no shopping bags anywhere. And you didn't suspect anything? No, Mom. I trusted her completely. I thought we were happy. Over the next few days, Michael and I became detectives. It was painful to watch my son discover that his marriage had been a lie, but I was also proud that he was finally seeing the truth. On Tuesday, we got Michael's DNA sample. It was easy, just a cheek swab. On Wednesday, Michael managed to get a few strands of Ashley's hair from her brush in the bathroom. 3 hairs with the root, enough for the test. On Thursday, we mailed the samples to the lab. Rose had gotten me a discount, so we only paid $250 instead of the usual $350. The results would be ready in 5 business days. But while we waited for the results, something else was happening. Ashley had started acting strangely. Michael told me she had begun asking questions about me. Has your mom been asking things about the pregnancy? Why does your mom want to know when my last doctor's appointment was? Your mom is acting really weird lately. It was as if Ashley knew we were investigating, but she wasn't sure how much we knew. On Friday, Michael called me, upset. Mom, Ashley wants to have a family dinner this weekend. She says she wants to make peace with you. A family dinner? Yes, she wants to invite you to dinner on Saturday. She says she feels bad about what happened on Mother's Day and wants to fix things. My gut told me this was no coincidence. Ashley wasn't the type to apologize easily. If she wanted to organize a family dinner right now, there had to be a reason. Michael, did you say anything to her about our conversations? No, Mom. I've been very careful. But she knows something is up. Last night she asked me directly if I doubted the baby was mine. And what did you say? I told her of course not, but I'm not sure she believed me. That night I couldn't sleep. I had a feeling Ashley was planning something. The family dinner wasn't an apology. It was a strategy. On Saturday morning, Michael called me early. Mom, dinner's canceled. Why? Ashley says she's not feeling well. But Mom, I think something else is going on. Last night I heard her talking on the phone with someone in a very low voice. When I walked into the room, she hung up immediately. Could you hear anything she said? I only heard her say, I have to find a way to fix this before it's too late. A shiver went down my spine. Ashley was planning something, and it had to do with us. That afternoon, I made a decision. I couldn't wait for the paternity test results. I had to confront Ashley directly, but in a way that she couldn't deny or manipulate the situation. I called Michael. Son, I need you to do me a favor. Invite Ashley to lunch tomorrow, Sunday. Tell her I'll be there too, that I want to apologize for being so nosy. Mom, are you sure? Positive. It's time Ashley and I had an honest conversation. What are you going to say to her? The truth, Michael. I'm going to tell her exactly what we know. Sunday came faster than I expected. I had spent the whole night mentally preparing what I was going to say to Ashley. I wasn't going to be cruel, but I wasn't going to let her keep lying either. Michael chose a public restaurant, which I thought was smart. If Ashley was going to have a dramatic reaction, it was better to be in a place where she would have to control herself. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat at a table near the window. I saw when Michael and Ashley walked into the restaurant. She looked nervous. She kept touching her hair and looking around as if she expected something bad to happen. When they sat down across from me, Ashley gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hi, Brenda. It's so good to see you." "Hi, Ashley. We need to talk." The smile vanished from her face immediately. And there, in that restaurant full of families enjoying their Sunday, I said the words that would change everything forever. "I know about Richard." The words left my mouth with a calmness I didn't know I possessed. I watched the color completely drain from Ashley's face. Her eyes widened, and for the first time since I'd known her, she didn't have an immediate comeback. Michael looked at me, confused. "Richard? What does Richard have to do with this?" Ashley quickly regained her composure, as only expert liars can. "I don't know what you're talking about, Brenda. Richard is Michael's friend, that's all." "Just a friend?" I took out my phone and showed her the pictures Michael had taken of her messages. "Does this look like a normal friendship to you?" Ashley tried to grab my phone, but I pulled it away. "Where did you get that? Those messages are private. They're messages where you planned your affair, Ashley. There's nothing private about that." Michael finally understood what was happening. His face changed from confusion to shock, and then to something I had never seen in him before. Pure fury. "You slept with Richard?" Ashley started to cry, perfect tears that ran down her cheeks without smudging her makeup. "Michael, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain why my pregnant wife has romantic messages with my best friend." People at nearby tables started to turn and look at us. Ashley noticed and lowered her voice. "It was a mistake. It only happened a few times. It didn't mean anything." "A few times?" Michael practically shouted. "And the baby?" That's when Ashley made her biggest mistake. Instead of continuing to deny, instead of continuing to lie, she stayed silent for too long. "The baby is yours, Michael. Of course, he's yours." But her voice didn't sound convincing, not even to herself. I leaned forward. "Ashley, the dates don't add up. Michael was out of town during the dates you said you conceived. And according to your own messages, you already knew you were pregnant when you arrived in the mountains. That's not true." "Yes, it is, and I have proof." Ashley looked at me with pure hatred. What kind of mother-in-law spies on her daughter-in-law? The kind of mother-in-law who protects her son from liars. Michael stood up so fast his chair fell over. "We're leaving, now." Ashley tried to grab his arm. "Michael, please, let me explain." "I don't want to hear any more lies." We walked out of the restaurant in silence. In the parking lot, Michael finally exploded. 3 years of marriage, 3 years thinking I was happy. Ashley was still crying, but now they seemed like real tears. "Michael, please, it was a mistake. We can get through this." "Get through what? The affair or the fact that you're possibly pregnant with another man's child?" "The baby is yours." "Then take the paternity test." Ashley fell silent again. And in that silence, we all got our answer. The following days were chaos. Michael came to stay with me while he figured out what to do. Ashley called him constantly, sent messages, and even showed up at my house twice, crying and begging. On Wednesday, the paternity test results arrived. Rose called me personally. "Brenda, are you sitting down? Just tell me. Michael is not the father." Even though I already knew it in my heart, hearing the words was like a punch to the gut. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure. The probability of paternity is 0%. That night, I gave the news to Michael. My son cried like I hadn't seen him cry since he was a little boy. He wasn't just losing his wife. He was losing the child he thought was his. "Mom, how could I have been so stupid?" You weren't stupid, son. You were trusting. There's a difference. What am I going to do now? You're going to divorce her, and you're going to move on with your life. And the baby? The baby is not your responsibility, Michael. That baby has a father, and it isn't you. On Thursday, Michael confronted Ashley with the test results. She finally admitted everything. Yes, she'd had an affair with Richard. Yes, the baby was his. And yes, she had planned to make Michael believe the baby was his for the rest of his life. Why? Michael asked her. Why didn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning? Because Richard didn't want to leave his wife. And you love me, Michael. I thought we could be happy. Happy? Based on a lie? Lies can become the truth if you live them long enough. That sentence revealed to me exactly who Ashley really was. On Friday, Ashley did something I should have expected. She tried to manipulate the situation in her favor. She called the entire extended family, including Carol, and told them her version of the story. According to Ashley, I had made the whole thing up because I had never accepted her as a daughter-in-law. She admitted to making a small mistake with Richard, but insisted the baby was Michael's and that I had manipulated the paternity test results because I wanted to destroy her marriage. Carol called me that night, furious. Brenda, how could you do something like this? Ashley is pregnant and vulnerable. Carol, she lied to me. She lied to Michael. She lied to the whole family. But you manipulated a paternity test. I didn't manipulate anything. The test is real, and I did it because I knew something was wrong. Ashley says you've always hated her. Ashley says a lot of things. Most of them are lies. By the weekend, half the family was on Ashley's side. They accused me of being a toxic mother-in-law who had destroyed a marriage out of jealousy. The other half didn't know what to believe. On Sunday morning, as I sat drinking coffee in my kitchen, I made a decision that would change everything. Ashley had made her version of the story public. She had lied about me, about Michael, about the whole situation. She had manipulated the family into seeing her as a victim. But she had made one mistake. She had underestimated a 59-year-old woman who no longer had anything to lose. I picked up my phone and dialed Carol's number. Carol, I want you to organize a family meeting. What for? So Ashley can tell her full story in front of everyone, and so I can tell mine. Brenda, I don't think that's a good idea. Tell Ashley I'm willing to apologize publicly if she can prove the baby is Michael's. There was a pause. You'd really do that? Absolutely. I knew Ashley wouldn't be able to resist the opportunity to humiliate me publicly. Her ego and her need for control would lead her straight into the trap I was setting. Carol called me back 2 hours later. Ashley accepts. She says she wants the whole family to see who you really are. Perfect. Tell her it can be tomorrow night at my house. At your house? Yes, my house, my territory, my rules. That night, I prepared everything carefully. I wasn't just going to confront Ashley in front of the family. I was going to give her the gift I had been preparing since Mother's Day. A gift that would show everyone exactly who Ashley really was. And this time, there would be no way she could lie her way out of it. On Monday night, my house was full in a way it hadn't been in years. Carol had arrived with Robert and their 2 kids. My sister-in-law, Teresa, came with her husband. Even my distant cousins showed up, all curious about the family drama that had been unfolding. Michael sat on the sofa, nervous but resolute. We had gone over everything that was about to happen. He had copies of all of Ashley's messages with Richard, the paternity test results, and the resort documentation that proved the dates didn't add up. Ashley arrived last, as always. She walked in with her 7-month belly prominent, dressed in white as if she were a martyr. She sat in the chair Carol had saved for her, looking at me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Well, Brenda," she said, her voice soft but laced with venom, "here we are, the whole family gathered to hear your apology." "Indeed, here we are," I replied. "But before any apologies, I think everyone deserves to hear the full story." I stood up and looked at each person in the room. 3 weeks ago, on Mother's Day, I prepared a family lunch. No one came because Ashley had organized a gender reveal party and told everyone I couldn't attend because I had other plans. "That's not," Ashley began. "Let me finish." My voice was firmer than it had been in years. Not only did she exclude me from the party, but she publicly wrote on social media that she had only invited the most important people. No inconvenient old hag. I saw several people turn to look at Ashley in surprise. That's what made me start investigating, and what I found was much more serious than a simple family exclusion. I took out a folder I had prepared and placed it on the coffee table. "Ashley, would you like to tell the family about Richard Herrera?" The silence that followed was deafening. Ashley turned pale, but kept her composure. "Richard is Michael's friend. I don't know what you're insinuating." "A friend?" I said. "Michael, would you show the family the messages you found on your wife's phone?" Michael took out his phone with trembling hands and began to read the messages between Ashley and Richard aloud. With each message, I saw the faces of our relatives change from curiosity to shock and then to disgust. "I miss you so much. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Are you sure Michael doesn't suspect anything?" When he finished reading, the silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Carol was the first to speak. "Ashley, are these messages real?" I can explain." "Explain what?" Robert interjected. "Explain why you cheated on your husband with his best friend." Ashley started crying, but this time no one was moved. "It was a mistake. It only happened a few times. The baby is Michael's, I swear." That's when I played my trump card. "Ashley, since you're so sure the baby is Michael's, I assume you won't have a problem with this." I pulled an envelope from the folder and handed it to her. "What is this?" "The results of the paternity test Michael and I had done last week." Ashley froze, holding the unopened envelope. "Go on," I said. "Open it. Show everyone that the baby is Michael's. I don't need to open this. I know who my son's father is." "Then open it." "No." "Why not?" "Because I don't have to prove anything to anyone." Michael stood up. "Ashley, open the envelope." "No. Open the damn envelope." Michael's shout made everyone jump. Ashley, with tears streaming down her cheeks, finally opened the envelope with trembling hands. She read the contents in silence. I saw the exact moment reality hit her. Her shoulders slumped, and she dropped the paper on the floor. Carol picked it up and read it aloud. "Probability of paternity, 0%. Michael Miller is not the biological father of the unborn child." The chaos that followed was indescribable. Shouting, accusations, tears. Ashley tried to explain herself, but no one was listening anymore. She had been caught in lies so big, there was no way out. "You're all judging me," she finally screamed. "But Brenda always hated me. She manipulated this whole thing." "I manipulated your affair?" I asked calmly. "I manipulated your lies. I manipulated your romantic messages with Richard. You never accepted me into this family." "You're right," I admitted. "I never accepted you, but not for the reasons you think." I walked closer to her, looking her straight in the eye. "I never accepted you because from day one, I sensed you were fake. Your smile never reached your eyes. Your words never matched your actions. And I was right. You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see her son have his own life." My own life? Michael stood up again. You call living a lie my own life? Raising a child that isn't mine? Having my wife sleep with my best friend? Ashley stood up too, holding her belly. You still love me. We can get through this. No, Michael said with a calmness that surprised me. I don't love you. I probably never really loved you. I loved the idea of you, the person you pretended to be, but that person never existed. Ashley looked around the room, searching for an ally, someone to defend her, but everyone looked at her with either contempt or pity. This isn't over, she said, pointing a finger at me. I'm going to fight for my marriage. Your marriage ended the day you decided to cheat on my son, I replied. And besides, there's something else you should know. I took out my phone and dialed a number. Hello, Richard. This is Brenda, Michael's mother. I think there's something you need to know about the baby Ashley is expecting. The color completely vanished from Ashley's face. What are you doing? I'm giving the real father a chance to meet his son. I put the phone on speaker so everyone could hear. The baby is mine? Richard asked from the other end of the line. According to the paternity test, yes, Michael is not the father. There was a long silence. Then a female voice could be heard shouting in the background. Richard's wife had heard the entire conversation. Ashley, Richard finally said, we need to talk. I hung up the phone. Ashley was looking at me with pure hatred. You just destroyed 3 families. No, Ashley, you destroyed 3 families. I just revealed the truth. Ashley picked up her bag and headed for the door. Before leaving, she turned one last time. You're all going to regret this. The only one who's going to have regrets is you, I said, because now you have to face the consequences of your actions with no one to cover for you. After she left, the family sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Carol came over to me. Brenda, I'm sorry. I didn't believe you when... Don't apologize, Carol. Ashley is very convincing when she wants to be. Michael came over and hugged me. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for not letting me live in that lie forever. That's what mothers are for, son, to protect their children, no matter how old they are. The following months were difficult, but also liberating. Michael filed for divorce immediately. Ashley tried to fight it, but with no proof of paternity and all her lies exposed, she didn't have a case. Ricardo eventually admitted the affair to his wife. Their marriage crumbled too. The baby was born in October, a beautiful boy who looked exactly like Richard. There was no question of paternity. Michael went through a tough period of depression and therapy, but gradually he began to heal. 6 months after the divorce, he met a woman named Patricia at his job, an honest, direct woman who loved him for who he truly was. As for me, I got my son and my family back, but more importantly, I got my voice back. I was no longer the inconvenient old hag who stayed silent to keep the peace. I was a woman who stood up for the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it was. The following Mother's Day, my house was full again. Michael came with Patricia. Carol brought her kids. The whole family gathered for the lunch I had prepared. But this time, everyone showed up. And this time, nobody called me inconvenient. As I was serving dessert, Patricia took my hand. Thank you for protecting Michael, she said quietly. He told me everything you did. Any mother would have done the same. No, she replied. Not every mother would have had the courage to face the truth when it was so painful. That night, after everyone had gone home, I sat in my living room looking at family photos. In some of them, Ashley appeared, smiling that fake smile that had never fooled me. I didn't feel hatred towards her. I felt pity, because in the end, Ashley had lost everything for not being able to be honest. Her marriage, her adopted family, the chance to be truly happy. but I had gained something invaluable. I had learned that it's never too late to stand up for what's right. It's never too late to protect the people you love, and it's never too late to claim your place in the world. At 59, I had finally learned that I didn't need anyone's approval to be who I was, and that lesson was worth all the pain it had cost to learn it.